Hi everybody, Dhaman Mehta here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Got 7 more stories for you, so let's just dive in. Starting with The Second Time Around by ZilchNil. And this is a Harry Potter time travel fic that decides to basically ignore whatever old world Harry came from and only focus on the now. We get no backstory and just jump right into Harry waking up back in the past in Halloween 1991, dealing with the troll incident. And it gets mildly amusing as we get past Harry's first year, and the summer brings a bunch of change, but it's also pretty forgettable. It's basically fast food that you'll enjoy it well enough while eating it, but you'll forget about it and feel more hungry in a half an hour. So not really something I would revisit. It's gonna fall off my list. The next one is one of the reasons why this video took so long. Pokemon Reset Bloodlines by Crossoverpairinglover. This is a Pokemon time travel fic, but a bit more of a change. So basically, Ash, during at one point in his journey, basically the world starts just getting erased and everything starts disappearing, and then Arceus shows up and boots him back to the past to fix it and stop Cyrus from erasing reality. But he doesn't do it perfectly. The world has now changed because of Cyrus messing with reality, and so now we have a much more we have a darker take on the world where people die in actuality, and injuries are more common and all that stuff. And we also basically get mutants, bloodliners they're called, but essentially mutants added to the mix. This story is really interesting, I feel. I won't say that I found any amazing moments that are blow my breath away, that this scene is a must read or whatever. But I was never bored, and that's something to say when this fic is over 800,000 words long. I was constantly engaged. I had no trouble always coming in. The only reason it took so long for me to read is just because it's so long and I had other stuff to do. But I was never I have to go back to this story. I was always ready to go find out what's happening next and continue on. And yeah, it's the changes in the world are keep things fresh, keeps things from getting stale. Even though it's been super long since I've seen the original anime, a lot of the it goes through a lot of the points, but obviously not everything. And because of the new tone and change of the setting, some things get skipped over because other things get deal with it and stuff. And I find it interesting. They also age up all the characters to be starting at 15 and so on, so that the harem aspects are less squicky, in a sense. And that's right, harems, because this is one of the few fics where having a harem is a significant plot point, not just for Ash, but there are other people that it's oh, they have a harem, that kind of marks them as a significant person for an actual plot reason, not just the fact that, oh, there's more people that are having the protag fantasy or whatever. No, there's a reason, or there's possibly a reason why this is happening. So this story gets to it's not finished yet, but it's also still being updated. The last chapter just came out at the end of 20 actually, yeah, it came out 2020, at the end of 2022. And that's now been over almost 10 years. It's been 9 years. It's still being updated. And right now they're just about at near the end of the Kanto arc. They're at the Indigo conference and stuff. And the main thing here is the new plot elements of dealing with the bloodliners, who's behind it, and those things. Right now, that's been taking center during the whole Kanto arc. That's really what takes center stage, not the issue of dealing with Cyrus, because he's a couple regions away, and Ash is I gotta build up my team and do that and set up that. So it's he's the faraway goal, whereas dealing with the mutant issue, the bloodliner issue, that's the main thing that's happening right now. Also, of course, getting Ash's Pokemon back, along with the caveat that when Ash like recaptures his Pokemon and touches them, they get their memories from the future. So that also leads to an interesting dynamic of he can, he's talking to his Pokemon, and they're more characters that he can bounce off of and interact with. And even honestly, like Ash's companions, who have also there's been a bit of a change. They're great to interact with their Pokemon, and them both being bloodliners as well. It's pretty interesting. And honestly, one of the more interesting and like interesting ideas as a companion and pretty fun character is the Pokédex. Like it's actually a full on character and really entertaining. I just really like this story, and like I said, I was fully engaged and like never bored. If you like Pokemon and you're ready for a big thing, I think you will enjoy this, and it's going to stay on my list. Now for a shorter review, we have Time Mixup, Time Snarl by Lucillia, and this is another sequel story where it doesn't get anywhere. It's just set up, and then the author stopped updating. Easily skipped and forgotten. It's going to fall off my list. Moving on now to Maho Shoujo Kaleido Amethyst first version by Kijin666. So this is a fan fiction divergence fic where so this is based off the Fate's Gamble fanfic, which was a Harry Potter Fate's Day Night crossover. And this one says like, okay, hey, get to this chapter of Fate's Gamble, and then I'm gonna branch off and do my own thing with this. Where he becomes more of a magical girl during the Holy Grail War that he participates in that first story. As with other fics of this type, if you've not read the original story that it's diverging from up to its point, you're going to be lost, because this just acts as if, okay, no, it's just those chapters existed and now you're reading on this. And as I quickly grew bored of the original Fate's Gamble, I did fall into the category where I'd kind of forgotten what the people were and what's that. However, even though I had forgotten the major plot points and like maybe some of the characters, like them being there and like their names, I didn't quite know who they were. I could still remember and like feel that the tone and writing of this story felt off compared to Fate's Gamble. Like there's been a couple others of this kind of like premise and like style of where you start with a fic and branch off in the middle of it, where that have been on my list. But those I found match, like the new writer still was able to match the tone and feel of the original story. This one really doesn't, and it focuses like it changes Harry's character to be like easily flustered and stuff because of the new body he has, whereas like in the original he's like too cool for school, OP, gender fluid, and like doesn't really give a shit. Like that's not a huge plot point, but it is like some kind of a disconnect, especially for the people that would be reading this from reading the original and then jumping into this. Like there's a disconnect, and it's also just all like harem focused and just focusing on the embarrassment he feels with the new female body, which again, if you read the original, especially when it goes forward and he just stops caring about everything, like disconnection. And also just I didn't get into any of this. Like it never was really interesting for me on this reread. I just didn't like it, and I don't think people who like Fate's Gamble, if you get to that point, because this does diverge rather late in Fate's Gamble. Not late, but like Fate's Gamble's super long, so like it gets like 48 chapters in before it diverges. So you'd have to be invested a lot into Fate's Gamble before you would really get into what even go for this, and the disconnect would probably hit you more if you were a big fan of Fate's Gamble. So I don't think those people like it either, so it's going to fall off my list. Next is He's Not Dead Yet by Bailey, sorry. And this is another Harry Potter time travel fic. Like I have a lot of those on my list, fully acknowledge that. It's another one. and it's not great. This one takes itself semi-seriously for the first 10 chapters or so, and then it just devolves into mindlessly repeating Monty Python sketches. A lot of the times when they not even like integrating them well, just literally having a scene stop so that a Monty Python sketch could occur, and then jump and then moving back to the scene or just moving on to the next scene. It gets points for being complete, but it's not something I'd recommend. There's better time travel fix. There's better comedic fix. It's like there's just better fix to scratch the time travel itch for Harry Potter. If you're looking for it, it's gonna fall off my list. Another sequel story here now with How to Think Without Thinking by Sparrowette. This is a Naruto sequel story. This one sequel to How to Win Friends, Influence People. This one doesn't get very far. You get about 4 chapters. However, this is at least a bit entertaining, enough to work like as an extended epilogue to the original story. So it's not something that can stand on its own, so it won't be staying on my list. But if you enjoyed the original, I think you will get a few laughs out of this, and do think that this would be worth giving a look, as opposed to like the other ones that I mentioned, where it's just looking at it would just make you a little disappointed or just spoil the aftertaste, spoil like the feeling you had at the end of the original story. Here, it's a good extended. It's like an extended coda or like an OVA at the end of a season that doesn't go anywhere, but it's a good like little bit extra. So it's gonna fall off my list. But if you enjoyed the first story for this thing, I would recommend giving this, after you finish that one, looking at this as just a little bit extra. And finally, for this video, is Lost, Confused, Searching Genius by Urban Sloth. This is a short tale of love between Tony Stark and a female Harry Potter character, who's, battered, weary, little messed up after dealing with her events of canon and like time. It does a good job. It does its job as a one shot to give a feeling of like sweet romance between broken people. And I think, like I said, like I think it's sweet, it's enjoyable, and I did like it. I just wish that it and its sequels were all combined into one story, and like because like this one, because of the nature of how it's broken up, I actually had to think about whether I wanted to keep this on my list or not. But overall I decided I did still enjoy this. I wouldn't mind going back and seeing it, and like I would probably revisit it. The only thing is, like, if I ever come back to this, I would read all of them at once. So it feels weird just saying, this first part stays on my list by itself, when in reality it's this one. It's probably going to be like, do I keep all there? But this one stays on my list definitely as like a one shot. It's good. So yes, it stays on my list. Thank you. So fanfiction status time. I've now read 993 stories, and 466 of them have stayed on my list. Thank you so much for watching. As always, links are in the description, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.